morning. I'm Susan Pertnoy here with Barbara Kay. Welcome to Mosaic, Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's weekly news magazine show.
Now in our 40th season, Mosaic explores Jewish issues here in the Palm Beaches and around the world.
These days, the way we connect with each other revolves around smartphones. One of the biggest influencers in this realm is David Yarus, creator of the widely successful Jswipe Jewish dating app.
And today we're talking with David about how he's working with Jewish organizations to connect millennials with Jewish life.
We'll be right back with Mosaic after this brief commercial break.
Eat, drink, and enjoy Shabbat services at Temple Bethel's Friday night happenings. Cocktail reception and kosher dinner at 5:30, followed by our creative, musically driven Shabbat service. Traditional to progressive, the food and music change every Friday, and you'll want to stay for complimentary dessert.
Plan to spend the whole evening here, and you'll walk away and you'll say, wow, we're coming back next week. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat services at Temple Bethel, open to everyone. Join us every Friday night.
The Live-In Palace at Morse Life is leasing luxury residences for ages 65 plus, offering more than first-class amenities and white glove service. Life at the Palace is like life aboard a luxury cruise ship with more things to enjoy life now. More fabulous food, more fun, more friends, more family, more freedom, more future. Morse Life is more life. Live it at the Palace. Start your fabulous future now. Call 561-537-3402.
If it wasn't for the financial assistance, I couldn't come here.
Every little bit helps. She says, I get stronger every day.
When you have a child and you want the absolute best for them, it's twice as important to make the community strong.
There are few experiences that bring a family closer than an adventure in the land of Israel. Enjoy the magic of Hanukkah with your children or grandchildren on Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's unforgettable, tailor-made journey through Israel's most magnificent sites and cities. It's happening December 22nd to 29th, 2019. Learn more and reserve your spot with the information on your screen. We're here on location at Subculture Coffee in downtown West Palm Beach, and joining us today is David Yarus, Jswipe creator, global ambassador for JDate, and founder and principal of Millennial Creative Agency. Welcome to Mosaic.
Thank you so much for having me.
With so many dating sites in existence, how and why did you create Jswipe?
So I moved to New York in 2010 for a dream job and to meet a nice Jewish girl. I moved to the Upper West Side because I was told that that's where they all lived. I did all of the things to meet someone, but found it unbelievably inconvenient or socially awkward to do so in the traditional ways. I was going to all of the Shabbats, I was hosting meals, I was on the shul circuit, which in the Upper West Side means there's one that you go to on Friday night, then there's a different one that you go to on Saturday, and it was just kind of awkward. Around the same time, Tinder came out and had a bit of a PR issue. And it wasn't the most efficient or effective if you were trying to find someone Jewish. So I wanted to bring the best, latest technology for connecting communities to the Jewish world. Set off to build it, and Passover 2014 launched, and the rest is history.
Wow. You grew up in Miami Beach. How did your Jewish upbringing play into what you do?
It's interesting because I consider myself a bit of a Jewish mutt. I identify as #Jewish, or really something that I would call like post-denominational Jewish, meaning I don't want a particular label, I don't want to put myself in a box. I'm Jewish and I'm figuring it out. Definitely had an affiliated Jewish upbringing, Jewish day school, camp, the whole 9 yards. But have ebbed and flowed sort of in and out of Jewish practice my whole life. If anything, the way that it influenced the way that I think about the Jewish world is it showed me different groups or different communities within the Jewish community overall that were separate or didn't talk to each other or didn't collaborate. And for me, I've always found that off-putting. So everything that I do and all of the programming, all of the community work is by design inclusive, pluralistic, integrated, across the Jewish world and beyond. And it's a core value of mine, and ideally through all of the projects that I work on.
You're quite an entrepreneur, and I know that started at a very young age. Do you want to talk about all of your parties that you created?
So my parents raised me, to be an entrepreneur. Instead of normal allowance, I would pick grapefruits and sell them on the corner. And then as I got older, my first entrepreneurial venture was when I was 14, and I rented out a nightclub on South Beach with the girl that I carpooled to school with every morning, Deanna Paul, and we threw a party for our peers. And ever since then, bringing people together, creating space for connection and magic and friendship and love has always been sort of an undercurrent and passion of mine, throughout my life.
What did you do prior to Jswipe?
Prior to Jswipe, I've been working in the social media marketing space. I was the general manager of a company called Mr. Youth, which was the leading youth marketing agency. So we were doing all of these large-scale ambassador programs for Coca-Cola, Spotify, big brands. And on the weekends, for fun, kind of my fantasy football, I would help Jewish organizations with best practices in social media, creative digital marketing, and found great meaning in that.
What do you attribute the success of Jswipe to?
Success of Jswipe is honestly feels like a bit of magic in a bottle. It was a combination of right place, right time, right team, great execution, a lot of hustle, and also luck, blessing, and miracles. By and large, Jewish millennials are less engaged, less affiliated, less inclined to participate in Jewish community, activities than than generations past. And the fact that we were able to design a brand that was not intimidating and that was inclusive to all Jewish millennials, however you hold, whatever you practice, was key to our ability to really, succeed and grow pretty quickly. Over the first month, we had about 50,000 users. Month 2, we had about 100,000. Now we have over 1 million users around the world. All key major Jewish metropolitan areas you can imagine, literally worldwide. And a beautiful part about it is it's a diverse audience within our community. So we have every different type of identity within the Jewish world pretty heavily represented on the app. And regardless of if you're more observant or sort of just culturally Jewish, people are comfortable and share that space.
Have people swiped all the way to the chuppah?
We've had thousands of marriages over the last several years. Over the first few months, 5 years ago, the first marriage we got word of, or the first engagement was a rabbi. So we actually kept it under wraps because while it was beautiful, we didn't want people thinking that only rabbis are swiping for on Jswipe. But nowadays we have people DMing, texting, messaging, emailing us stories every day, and it's really, really special.
So tell me, how does that connect to your JDate role?
So about 3 years ago, Jswipe was acquired by JDate. So now we're all part of one Jewish love happy family. And my role evolved from only focusing on Jswipe and really the millennial Jewish audience to now taking on the role of global ambassador for JDate, thinking of Jewish love more holistically, cross generations, cross regions, and trying to connect and inspire Jewish love and connection wherever you are, whatever age, whatever it is that you're looking for.
On that note, we need to take a break. We'll be right back after this brief message. Coming up, more with David Yarus on how he's working with global Jewish organizations to help them connect with millennials. There are few experiences that bring a family closer than an adventure in the land of Israel. Enjoy the magic of Hanukkah with your children or grandchildren on Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's unforgettable, tailor-made journey through Israel's most magnificent sites and cities. It's happening December 22nd to 29th, 2019. Learn more and reserve your spot with the information on your screen.
Our lives are made of memories, but when those memories start to fade, your happiness shouldn't follow. At Morse Life's Memory Care Residences, your loved one is safe and secure with the very best care from our staff who are specially trained to work with memory loss. The greatest luxury of all is the peace of mind that awaits at the gold standard Memory Care Residences at Morse Life. Find the life you love again. Secure your lease today. The Memory Care Residences at Morse Life.
If it wasn't for the financial assistance, I couldn't come here.
Every little bit helps. She says, I get stronger every day.
When you have a child and you want the absolute best for them, it's twice as important to make the community strong.
The Live-In Palace at Morse Life is leasing luxury residences for ages 65 plus, offering more than first-class amenities and white glove service. Life at the Palace is like life aboard a luxury cruise ship with more things to enjoy life now. More fabulous food, more fun, more friends, more family, more freedom, more future. Morse Life is more life. Live it at the Palace. Start your fabulous future now. Call 561-537-3402.
If it wasn't for the financial assistance, I couldn't come here.
Every little bit helps. She says, I get stronger every day.
When you have a child and you want the absolute best for them, it's twice as important to make the community strong.
We're back with David Yarus talking about Jewish millennials and Jswipe. David, Jewish millennials are an elusive group, as you know. How did you get so many of them to buy into your app?
So the first thing I'd say is it was a blessing and a surprise to see the sort of the growth rate and how fast we were adopted, not only as a thing but kind of a household brand in the Jewish world, especially among this audience. I think the main thing we can chalk that up to is we were very, very intentional when creating the brand and creating the community to not have sort of a backhanded agenda. Right? It wasn't that we were trying to get you to do more mitzvahs or go to another Shabbat dinner or do anything other than be exactly who and as you are.
So you're transparent.
And should you be interested in finding and marrying someone Jewish, this is a place for you. But that sort of non-agenda safe space made people comfortable regardless of how they and who they were, how they practiced, how they identified. They all felt comfortable there, and that was key to being able to succeed.
What is the most gratifying aspect of creating Jswipe, or what are some of your most wonderful stories?
So the most gratifying piece is really the impact that we're having in terms of changing people's lives, connecting them to find the love they're looking for, their person, their significant others, their spouses. The stories come in and each one of them is more beautiful than the next, so I want to say that I love all of the stories and they're all beautiful in their own way. My favorite stories are the ones that would be so far-fetched or never would have happened without Jswipe in this case. So for example, if you live in this side of town and you find someone on that side of town, it's feasible that maybe you would have met somehow otherwise. But you could swipe globally, meaning you don't only need to swipe within your 5, 10, 20 mile radius, you could swipe worldwide. And so some of the stories are people, he's from South Africa, she's from Tel Aviv, they matched, they messaged for a while, they started video chatting, they met up, they fell in love, and now they're married. And that type of thing just wouldn't have ever been possible otherwise. And so those are my favorite stories.
Why do you think millennials are so different from other generations?
Broadly speaking or Jewishly?
Broadly speaking.
First of all, we've grown up with technology, so we're referred to as digital natives, and we breathe and think in a different way, on demand, real time, in our pocket, always connected. And that just sort of comes naturally to us, and we expect that out of the brands, organizations, and experiences that we connect with or that we advocate on behalf of. We also are referred to as the Starbucks generation or Generation I, where everyone wants their life to be hyper personalized to the frappa, mocha, latte, skim. We want everything to really represent who we are in our individuality. We're known to value experiences over things. So whereas, generations past it was about having and buying this new shiny object, now it's about world travel or festival culture or really experiencing more of the world rather than acquiring, stuff. Those are a few of the reasons.
We often hear about companies and industries failing now because millennials have absolutely no interest in them. How is this elusive group so powerful?
Well, first now we're coming into our spending power, we're coming into the sort of the primary force within the workforce, and I think you'll see a lot of companies changing or evolving or failing, as you mentioned, if they don't adapt and innovate fast enough. And the other phrase I've heard is this idea of upgrade culture. So everything we do is always in beta. We're always evolving, we're always learning, we're always growing ourselves, as well as our expectation of the products, services, and organizations we associate with or buy from. And so the reason why lots of these sort of big tycoons or huge organizations that have been around for decades or for hundreds of years are failing is because they're so ingrained in their ways and they're not able to innovate fast enough, or they're not able to understand the changing tides or the evolving expectations, needs, desires, values of the millennial audience. And quickly you'll have startups that are started by millennials sort of eating their lunch.
You've developed an agency called Millennial. It's a creative agency, and you've teamed up with global Jewish organizations such as Hillel, Taglit, Birthright, and federations. Why did you choose to do that?
So when I started on the weekends just helping Jewish organizations for fun, no agenda, pro bono, thinking with them, applying best practices in digital and creative and social media marketing, I was seeing the most unbelievable impact coming from a few hours of consultation. And as that started to evolve and grow, I was pretty clear on the need. By and large, many of these Jewish organizations, I would say most, are run by distinctly not millennials. The decision makers, the philanthropists, everyone really behind them. And they were frantically worrying why millennials weren't resonating with their programming, their missions, their opportunities that they put forth. And so I see myself and my team playing the role of the bridge, or the sort of the translator in between what I call big Jewish, or sort of the institutional global Jewish infrastructure, and the millennial Jewish experience. And so I understand sort of the needs and the wants and the desires and the mission of the Jewish world. And of course I identify with and deeply understand the experience and needs of millennials and millennial Jews in this case, and I try to bridge that gap.
We have to take a break. We'll be right back with David Yarus after this brief message.
Coming up, David Yarus tells us why millennials are so different than previous generations.
The Live-In Palace at Morse Life is leasing luxury residences for ages 65 plus, offering more than first-class amenities and white glove service. Life at the Palace is like life aboard a luxury cruise ship with more things to enjoy life now. More fabulous food, more fun, more friends, more family, more freedom, more future. Morse Life is more life. Live it at the Palace. Start your fabulous future now. Call 561-537-3402.
Eat, drink, and enjoy Shabbat services at Temple Bethel's Friday night happenings. Cocktail reception and kosher dinner at 5:30, followed by our creative, musically driven Shabbat service. Traditional to progressive, the food and music change every Friday, and you'll want to stay for complimentary dessert.
Plan to spend the whole evening here, and you'll walk away and you'll say, wow, we're coming back next week. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat services at Temple Bethel, open to everyone. Join us every Friday night.
There are few experiences that bring a family closer than an adventure in the land of Israel. Enjoy the magic of Hanukkah with your children or grandchildren on Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's unforgettable, tailor-made journey through Israel's most magnificent sites and cities. It's happening December 22nd to 29th, 2019. Learn more and reserve your spot with the information on your screen.
If it wasn't for the financial assistance, I couldn't come here.
Every little bit helps. She says, I get stronger every day.
When you have a child and you want the absolute best for them, it's twice as important to make the community stronger.
We're back with David Yarus talking about how his agency Millennial is helping to make Jewish organizations relevant. David, can you give us some examples of how you're doing this?
So the first thing I'd say is that many of these Jewish organizations, I'm sure, are relevant to their current constituency, but are struggling to resonate and relate to sort of the next-gen evolving millennial audience. And that's because we just fundamentally think, live, act, decide, buy, participate differently than generations past. One of the first things is we have an expectation of creative and digital excellence, meaning we spend 8 hours plus a day on screens or on computers, and so the websites and the platforms we're interacting with have billions of dollars going into making them as beautiful, as minimal, as streamlined, as easy as can be. And that has, at a subconscious level, just become our benchmark or our baseline for an expectation of any website or any digital communication we interact with. So first, I would say implementing just creative excellence, everything looking beautiful, leveraging social media best practices, telling your story in short form via social media, and making sure your websites or your digital communications are mobile first, web optimized, and really in line with the way that we encounter and experience the rest of our digital worlds.
Do you think millennials really want to connect with Jewish life?
So it's a great question, because what we're seeing is widespread sort of Jewish millennial apathy, less engagement, less affiliation. That's not just Jewish millennials, it's actually across millennials, of all religions. This is the least engaged, least traditionally religious generation in recent history. But what I think about a lot is the idea that there's hundreds of millions of dollars every year being spent from what I call big Jewish, pushing forward, let's call it the Jewish Oldsmobile, which is the way that it's been. And Jewish millennials want the Tesla. So what does that look like? And the truth is, it will only be Jewish millennials being empowered really to design the experiences, design the events, the movements, the services, the organizations Jewishly that we want to participate in, that are in our image, that are in our interests, that are aligned with our values. And that's sort of the first step that will be required to meaningfully address and engage the audience.
How receptive have you found Jewish organizations to this?
If I'm being honest, well, some of them are aware of the need. Some of them are a little more urgent about it, but what hurts me is that at the global convenings of Jewish community in the Jewish world, from the organizations that we trust to be the convening bodies that really should be having these critical conversations, It's more so often a sort of pep rally of all the things that are good, and here meet 4 millennials on a token millennial panel for 30 minutes out of a 3-day event. And unfortunately, that's just not allowing us to be really self-aware, critical, and have the dialogue needed to address what I see as a critical code red issue, which is if we don't act now, if we don't radically think about and change the way that we're designing, that we're operating, that we're trying to engage the millennial audience, they're definitely not going to be, well, they're already not very engaged, but they're definitely not going to be giving Jewishly. They're definitely not going to be coming back to the synagogues when they have families, if there are no synagogues left for them to come to. It's that's obviously a little bit extreme, but some are receptive, but I think by and large it's not being discussed critically or authentically enough.
What do you think Jewish organizations need to do to make them relevant to millennials?
So the first thing is truly and meaningfully empower the young leadership or the millennial audience to have a seat at the table and to be the co-creators of what it is that they want us to be engaging with. Right? So often there's what I call like a puppet board where we're asked to be involved, and that means we either give a certain amount or they just ask us to send out invites to their next event, but it's not real. It's not authentic participation or co-creation, and that's distinctly different than saying, here, next generation of leaders, what is it that inspires you within the confines of our organization or our purpose? What would you like to do? What would you participate in? And then letting us create and participate in that sort of experience.
What's next for David Yarus?
Well, I've spent the last year shedding projects and things that I found energetically draining that weren't sort of aligned with what I now see as purpose or passion, and allowing myself to follow my bliss. So definitely some travel, some movement. My goal in this next year is to go to every major Jewish community around the world to get an understanding on the ground of who they are, what makes them tick, what's important to them, what do they care about, what are the biggest issues that face that community today. And the next thing that we'll see is a global convening of the Jewish future. So a space for the leaders and the entrepreneurs and the creators in the Jewish millennial experience to come together to have radical candor and dialogue around what the issues that are facing us today and what's critical, and the conversations that I find not being had elsewhere.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Mosaic is brought to you by these generous sponsors and underwriters. Learn how you can support Mosaic by visiting jewishpalmbeach.org/mosaic.